Hello, hello. So this is my first time ever doing a live stream, so bear with me. I'm just gonna check, make sure everything's working. Be just a moment. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, so it seems to be working. Hello and welcome everybody. So I'll jump right in. My name is Jean-Pierre. I'm an orthopedic massage therapist. I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm going to be talking tonight about the differences, the similarities between meditation, self-hypnosis, and most importantly, why you should care. But let's start off with a story. Some of you may know Wim Hof, the Iceman. I was fortunate enough to study with him in, I think 2017. Not quite sure. I think so. But I went to Poland, jumped in cold water in the middle of winter a couple days, times a day, and on the end of the fifth day, we climbed a mountain with no jacket, just bare skin, some shorts, and some boots. But he relayed this story that, there was this council of wise people, and they were sitting around, and they had this great power, this secret knowledge, and they were saying, where can we hide this so no one will find it? And one spoke up and said, I know. We'll bury it deep, deep, deep underground. And the rest of them thought for a moment and said, no, that can't work. People will get digging machines, and they'll use their hands, and they'll dig. No matter how deep we bury it, one day they'll find it. And another person spoke up and said, oh, I know. We'll sink it to the bottom of the ocean. And again, they thought, and then again, it won't work. They'll get some sort of boat, they can cover themselves, they'll keep the air with them, they'll go all the way down to the bottom of the ocean one day, and one day they'll find it. And so, again, someone else, what about the stars? No, they'll get some sort of thing that can fly through the air, they'll make it up to the stars even one day. And so finally someone said, I know. We'll bury it deep inside the human being. And that's where we'll never look. And it's illustrated for a lot of points, right? But the point I'm going to make today is that all of us have these inner resources. All of us have this inner strength. All of us have this deep well of personal satisfaction, of joy, of contentment, of just peace, of feeling okay. And if you look out into the world to try to find that stuff, you'll never really find it in a lasting way. You can have a good lifestyle, of course, not to diminish like friends and family and things like that. But still, all of us, we need to have this connection with our deep inner being and make a relationship with ourselves. And if we don't have that relationship, we can get lost in all these things. We can get lost in vices. We can get lost in chasing sensations, all these things. So I'll talk more about that in detail. But I think it's important also because, I like to think I have an adventurous spirit. As a little kid, I would love to think that if given the chance, I would have been an astronaut. If someone was like, want to go to Mars? I'd be like, sure, yeah, I'll go to Mars. I dreamed about those things, or being a fireman or some superhero. We all have these dreams of greatness. Even climbing Mount Everest. Hell, I'd climb Mount Everest if given the chance. I'd probably die, but it'd be cool. But for better or for worse, my life has kind of constrained that adventurer kind of side. I've gone out and I've traveled the world in some really interesting ways, but I've learned to I want to say subvert or divert that energy, that there's a way that I can find adventure. I can go into the great mystery, and all of us have great mystery inside of us, and that we're actually the most complex thing ever discovered in the universe, as far as we know, is the human mind and the human body. And we all have this wonderful, amazing mechanism within inside of us. And we're driving this vehicle around, and it's easy to forget how amazing it can be. But meditation, self-hypnosis are the ways that you can go within and you can start to explore and experience yourself in a way that's really profound. And I'm going to relay my own story, something that I found in a meditation session. And when I say meditation, it's a very visual imagination experience for me of the group that I practice with. But so I imagined these deep black waters, and I saw myself diving into these deep black waters, and I was looking for something, and I was searching, and I was going to the point where I could barely go any further. I felt that kind of desperation for breath starting to creep in. But I saw this green shimmering light, and I dove deeper, until I could grab this little light and hold it in my hand. And I felt myself pulling back up to the surface. And as I was nearly about to breach out of the water, I looked down and I saw that there was an even deeper level, an even more beautiful, brilliant, bigger light, even deeper inside. And this is a JP original, that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a dream is worth 1,000,000. That this dream, this experience for myself, I realized that every time you sit and go within, you have this possibility, yes, to find like a sense of quiet and peace and deep relaxation, and it's healing and it's restorative, and all of that is tremendously important. I'll speak more about that as well. But also, once in a while, you have these experiences that literally change your experience of being a human being. I know that's a big claim, but I can tell you it has absolutely been true for me. And when you hear other people speak about spiritual practice and hypnotic practice and meditation practice, there's literally these moments that will demarcate before and after. And I've been fortunate enough to have some of those experiences myself, and I continue to look for more. I don't chase them every time I sit down, but sometimes, for whatever reason, they find me, I find them, and it's amazing. So I just recount that, as well as all the benefits of hypnosis and self-hypnosis and meditation. There's also this mystery and this wonder and this sense of curiosity that you can have, where you might stumble upon your own personal greatness in a way that really is astounding, amazing. So I'm going to use the terms hypnosis and meditation and self-hypnosis pretty much interchangeably. For myself, for a lot of people, these states are very, very similar. And you can kind of mince details and parse details, but for the most part, they're very similar. And I'm going to talk a little bit about meditation because I've worked with people as an orthopedic massage therapist for over a decade, and I've taught relaxation techniques and all these other things for a long time. I can go more into my history at another time. But I can't even count how many times people have said, I can't relax. I've tried to meditate. I can't do it. It's not for me. And it's sad to hear that. And I think it's a limiting belief that I personally really want to address and take on, because everyone is capable of these states, and it's a skill like any other skill. You can work on it, you can improve, you can get better at it. And even on you don't need to be super high level, do this for 10 years, freaking 50 years before you get any results. You can find results very quickly. Even just like 10-15 minutes of sitting down in quiet and practicing a technique, doing it for a few days, you can start to feel results as quickly as that. So I think when people think of meditation, especially here in the West, they think of mindfulness. And that is a very specific tradition of meditation. It comes from Zen Buddhism in Japan, and it's a monk's practice, right? The Zen monks, they shave their hair as a way of saying, like, we're going to cut ourselves off from the world. They live very quiet, peaceful lives. They live a rigid, rigorous schedule where every day is planned out. They have these things that they're going to do every time for this long. They're going to eat the same things. They have their roles in the temple. And then the mindfulness practice is it's an extension of that lifestyle. But it's also important to realize too that that's not the only practice that they do. They do many other things, and actually people don't know, like, there's a very rigorous side to their life. And actually one of the higher levels of Zen practice is going from pilgrimage sites one to the next across Japan at extremely rigorous pace. Like, there's a documentary called The Marathon Monks, and even triathletes can't keep up. There's this one guy in particular that's been doing it for a very long time, and his pace is grueling. And he makes his sandals himself out of like reeds, like rice reeds or whatever. And he has like just an alms bowl and a cane, a walking stick, and just has a blistering pace that even super athletes can't keep up with him, because he says that he goes into this trance, this mindset, the Zen state, and he maintains that pace because he's able to stick into that mindset the whole time. So that is not just sitting, right? That's not just sitting in silence. And I myself had the good fortune to study under a Shaolin monk, that is Chan Buddhism. That was the Chinese precursor that made it to Japan and became Zen Buddhism. And they talk about moving meditation. They have a sitting meditation, but also that you can practice this mindfulness, this awareness of self, even when practicing Kung Fu. And that's how they do it, is very rigorous physical practice. And you can keep a state of mind. So what is this state of mind? From my experience, from studying it and from hearing from many teachers, it's a state of inward absorption. You're absorbed in your own sensations of your own body, of your mind, and of all the thoughts. And you do it in a way that you don't get attached to any one thing, but you just keep extremely focused. And then also, you go to a place where your body becomes deeply relaxed, as if you were sleeping. And the more skilled that you get, the more that your body is totally in this mode of like a deactivation, but your mind stays keenly aware. So it's this profound combination of relaxation and focus that doesn't normally happen, right? Normally relaxation is like you're on the beach and you're sipping the Mai Tais, and or, I love staring at a fire. You're staring at the fire and you're just absorbed in this thing. But then focus is like life or death. You're on that, you're on a high wire, right? And the wind's blowing and you're like focused, or like driving a car or something where you're supposed to be focused. A lot of people aren't, myself included, maybe checking my phone, but deeply focused and deeply relaxed. And that's where the real magic happens, is this combination of these two things. Hypnosis does that in a really special way. I'll talk more about that in a bit as well. So, well, I'll go to that now. That all this can sound pretty woo-woo, right? But there's been a lot of research done on these states, and if you consider meditation and self-hypnosis or hypnosis, the volume of literature on it, on research on it, it is actually one of the more well-studied scientific fields regarding the human mind. In my opinion, there's a large volume of this, and it shows how effective all these things really are. Um, so it's not just like some made up thing from a couple years ago that about some random people made up. It's actually like a long tradition, and there's a long history of it. And hypnosis is kind of the Western tradition of these practices, in my opinion, and from the knowledge of it as well. So let's talk a little bit about the neuroscience of it, the neurology of it, is that we all have these different brain waves, right? If they hook up the electrodes to your brain and measure your brain waves, they'll see these certain waves flowing through your brain, anyone's brain at any time. And for people, it's like beta is normal waking consciousness. You're just going about your day, and your brain is mostly this predominant beta wave. And if you start to kind of just sit back and relax and kind of get bored, maybe just kind of wander around a little bit. Maybe if you're doing something that's kind of really repetitive, or maybe if you close your eyes, just get cozy, get comfortable, your brain starts to shift. It starts to slow down a little bit more, and it goes into the state of alpha. And if it slows down even more, you start to go into the state called theta. And theta is dreaming sleep. Or, there's a deeper theta and there's a lighter theta. So in light theta, you're in between this kind of alpha theta. You might just be daydreaming. You might just be sitting there staring at the wall, just like a zombie. Or maybe you're just going back in your mind, thinking about some random thing or a random conversation, good or bad. It could also be projecting out into the future, right? You could be lost in fantasy. And I know this very well. I was a dreamer. I'm a dreamer my whole life, but especially in school, I found it quite boring. So anytime at any given moment, you might look over and see me, and I'm just off on some other planet. And then past that, if your brain continues to slow down even more, there is delta, and delta is deep, dreamless sleep. And when you go into a meditation practice or a self-hypnosis practice, what you're doing is bringing your brainwave into that kind of sweet spot between that alpha and theta, where your imagination in your mind starts to open a little bit. You start to have that kind of dream-like state, right? But at the same time, you stay focused enough that you don't sink into sleep. So I kind of think of this analogy of it's like 0 to 100. 100 is deep sleep, and 0 is 100% waking consciousness. We'll be at 0 waking consciousness most of our day. We lay down. Maybe we have trouble falling asleep for a while, and then before we know it, we're asleep. And we just go from 0 to 100. And we don't spend any time in this median zone, or not much. And especially that zone right before, maybe 80, 90. We don't spend much time there. It's just maybe a few moments. And those are the moments that when you are there, you kind of lose track of time. It could be 1 minute. It could be 5 minutes. You might think you're like having a conversation with someone, and you're not really. You might start to dream already and just be like, oh, whoa. I'm not actually talking to the Pope right now or something. I don't know. So meditation practices, self-hypnosis practices, they help you get to that place and stay in that place. And I think the main thing that defines self-hypnosis, or a hypnosis practice in particular, if you're seeing someone else, is that you have a very specific intent. You have this package that you're going to deliver to yourself. And You take that package with you, you hold it in your mind, the other person holds that intention for you. You go to that place, and then that's when you open it, you know? And also another metaphor. I use a lot of metaphors, by the way, so get used to that. But another metaphor I use is that people have tried like positive thinking. They try to think like, I'm on top of the world. I'm going to do all these things. I have all these motivations, inspirations. I'm going to do this. It's like, I'm healthy, wealthy, and smart. And saying that 100 times to yourself, and you're, oh, yeah. And a lot of people find like, okay, it's like this temporary spike, and then, maybe the next day you're like, screw this world. I'm a blah, 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 talking bad about yourself. Or, I've gone to a lot of different like trainings and seminars and stuff like this, and some of them are like, you feel like on top of the world. You've done like a weekend or a full day or something like this, or even longer, and you just feel on top of the world. Even after the Wim Hof thing, I felt like 5 days, I felt like I could do anything, And then slowly you get back into your daily life, and then you're just kind of back to square one. But then, so that's kind of like, okay, you have this intent to better yourself and better your life. It's the equivalent if you had a bunch of seeds for a plant that you wanted to plant. You could just open the window and just chuck it out the window onto who knows what, the ground. Maybe you'll hit some dirt. Maybe you'll hit the concrete. Maybe you'll maybe get washed into a storm drain or something, right? And just hoping those seeds will sprout and you'll get something out of it. Well, good luck, But going into this kind of alpha, theta, sweet spot with an intention is the equivalent of going to the backyard, going to the yard with the best compost fertilizer, having a nice area, digging it out, weeding it, putting that fertilizer, putting that seed, putting the mulch on top, making sure everything's perfect. Which one of these two situations do you think is those seeds are gonna sprout and you're gonna get that fruit or that vegetable that you want? So that's really the importance that I think one of the main defining features. But not to think that meditation does not have an intent. It does. But hypnosis, and especially if you're working with a hypnotherapist, there are very specific goals that you are trying to achieve. And you're using this state as a way to inspire that change. We call it change work. But even within meditation, there are many different types of meditation. And people now, it's becoming more familiar of this kind of guided visualization. And that's wonderful. And I do a specific form of meditation myself that is deeply involved in using your imagination. I'm going to save that part for the end. But and we're going to do a little hypnosis session, so stay with me. That's the bait on the hook to keep you listening to me. But where was I? Oh, so people think, okay, like mindfulness, I'm just going to sit there, I'm going to not hold on to my thoughts, right? My thoughts are going to just drift by like clouds in the sky, and I won't attend to anyone, and they'll just go past, and the space between thoughts will get bigger and bigger, and I'll be able to be in this state of peace, and it will get easier and easier every time I do it, and I'll be able to keep that peace throughout my day, and I'll be a more peaceful and happy person. And I definitely like that narrative is great, and it's very difficult for a lot of people, and even people that have a dedicated meditation practice will find that it's that's like one of the highest levels of attainment of practice, is being in that meditative state in your daily life, right? It's a real challenge. But there are different ways that you can work with this kind of conscious mind. I think of the conscious mind as I'm going to define the conscious mind as this kind of voice that runs through our head, and the subconscious mind is kind of like the operating system that runs in the background. It runs all of our bodily processes, but it also runs our habits and our emotional reactions, are two of the main realms of the subconscious. I'm sure I'll talk more about this another time, but let's just define it as that for now. So you can use a meditation practice that intentionally occupies the conscious mind. And it gives it enough of a task, enough of a role that it stays engaged with that task to a degree that this other part of you gets to step to the forefront. And I can tell you from my experience with meditation, there's this tape recorder. It's running in my head. It's worrying about all this stuff from my future and my past. It's going over the arguments from 20 years ago that I now have the best answer for, but no one will ever know it, this kind of thing. Or dreaming about things that will never happen, right? But eventually, and not every time, but I can get to this place where that volume for that inner monologue gets turned down, maybe even to the point where it's like it's not even there. But there's this sense of another part of me that opens up and becomes aware. And that's the dreaming part of my mind, is what I'll call it. And by using my imagination, and the same for you, by using your imagination can show you things about how you truly feel, about what you really want for yourself, in a way that's so profound, there's no questioning it. In my opinion, you really smacks you right across the face, and you're like, oh, I see. And maybe there's a little bit of like, it could be this, it could be that, but for the most part, you really like, okay, I get it. So actually, I heard, I don't know how true this is, that actually the U.S. military, when they were trying to study kind of altered states of consciousness, they would give soldiers like very boring mathematical tests and have them just like on and on and on and on, do just basic math on and on and on, and eventually they would just kind of like their conscious mind was still occupied with that task, but the rest of them, the subconscious part of their mind would start to open, and that was actually the true intent of that research, was to see how these soldiers were going through those states. But I digress. But I'm gonna just share, if someone is interested in meditation, a very simple practice is just what people call mantras, right? Is kind of repeating a phrase. And it doesn't have to be a holy word. There's all these Sanskrit words that people think that are important, and I do too, but it doesn't have to be that. You don't have to start with that, right? So we're going to just take a minute. We're going to just practice. And it's going to be simple. Breathing in, just say the word in. And breathing out, just say the word out. And say it to yourself. And I do think there's something about this mantra practice where it's just like, let these words echo and ring through your being, right? It's not just in, out. Let it be like a bell ringing. In, out, in, out. Let it last along with the breath. Let it be these emphasized ins and outs. And there's specific ways to breathe in all these things. But for now, we're just going to practice just letting the breath be whatever it is. And we're going to focus on those words and that ringing of those words. So sit with me if you can. If you're driving or operating a forklift or a mulcher or something like this, don't do it. Pause the recording, pause the stream, and come back to me another time. But so just let's sit, let's get comfortable as we can be, and just close the eyes and just repeat mentally for yourself, by yourself. I'm going to do it out loud, but you don't have to. But in, out, in, out, in, out. And just for yourself, keep going as long as you choose. Just letting your mind focus on those words and the sounds and the sensations. All right. So that's one kind of meditation practice that people can play with, you can play with, that is not just I'm just gonna sit there and just like shoo away thoughts. you know it's occupying the conscious mind. That's one. So I found a lot of value in this kind of practice. Another thing you can do is even count. So you can just kind of count the inhale, say that's 1, and the exhale is 2, or you can count the inhale and the exhale, that's 1, and you can try to get to like the number 10 without being totally losing the thread. And if you do lose the thread, then you start back over again. So, you can try along with me, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. So I don't know about you guys, but even just, what was that, 15, 20 seconds of that, I find myself kind of drifting into this altered state. And that's a good segue for me. I consider altered states as a necessary human need. We all need to change our state of mind. It's fundamental. And when people hear this word altered states, they think of like using drugs or alcohol and things like that. And those drugs and alcohol are trying to fill that gap that we all have for ourselves. That we need to go into these altered states, these places where we are relaxed and recharging and rejuvenating, and it feels good, and you feel chilled out and relaxed, and it's extremely healing. And it's a whole other discussion to talk about. Everyone knows fight or flight is like when you feel anxious and you're nervous and all these things, and your cortisol is pumping and your heart is pumping, your adrenaline's pumping, and it's like we spend way too much time in that state. The opposite of that is rest and digest. And people can be stuck in fight or flight indefinitely, and it goes through their sleep. They wake up, they're in that state. They go back, they go through their whole day. They're just like up to here. They're like wired. You can be stuck in that state perpetually. You can live your whole life in that state, but it wears on your system. And it's extremely important to break that habit and to break that cycle and to go into that rest and digest, and even just spending a few moments there. Literally, I'm a busy dude. I have a family. I might just sit in my car between appointments and daycare and all this other stuff. I might even just take 1 minute and just breathe, and I have my own routine that I can just go through it and just let myself just drift and just say, okay, like just a few more seconds here, and come back and get going. It can be as quickly as that. Like literally you can take 5 minutes. I had a long road trip, and I was so tired, and I was driving to Rochester, New York from Boston, so it was like 7 hours, but it took me like 9 or whatever because I had a rest stop. And I just drank a coffee, and I was still like this. And so I was like, forget it. I just sat in my car. I drifted. I have the intention just 20 minutes like this. I'm just going to. And I got out of that state. I consciously exited that state, and I was ready to go on. I was ready to complete this challenge that I had facing me. So it's a wonderful resource for facing the challenges throughout your day. And I worked in a hospital, and I was a volunteer, and we would do Reiki for patients and for nurses and anyone that wanted it, even doctors, anyone that was willing to try it. Hell, I'd do it. And we would teach like some breathing techniques and some relaxation techniques, and I would do a little bit of hands-on energy work. If you don't believe in that stuff, that's another conversation. But anyway, I didn't know what I was doing so much. I was a young man, but I wanted to help people. But there would be this kind of sentiment with a lot of people that like, I can't, if I turn off right now, I can't turn back on. Like I have to be like this all day or I can't get through it. And I like to challenge that way of thinking and way of being as much as possible. It's a habit, right? And that's like people can be used to that's how they move through the world. But you can move through it in such a pleasant way if you can just take a few moments and rest and recharge and come out of that. Then your gas tank is full. The battery for your internal battery, it's like you plugged it up to a supercharger. You're back at 100, you know? So it's tremendously valuable. And I heard this about Floyd Mayweather. He's a boxer. He's considered one of the best modern boxers. I mean, people don't like the way he fights, but you know, we're not talking about that right now. But but I've heard this story that actually someone saw him and he was like napping before one of his biggest fights, and I think that's illustrative that even. And I study peak performance, and I do hypnotherapy for actually people that want to be at their personal best. They have something that's important to them. They want to do it on a very high level. It's important to know that I'm going to use a scale from 0 to 100, but say 0 is this like, now I'm flipping it, right? 0 is like totally chilled out and relaxed and doing nothing. And 100 is like, okay, you're boxing in front of 1 million people kind of thing, millions of people. Truly high skilled people, they can really benefit, or even the people at the highest level of their field, they don't have to be at that 100 the whole time before this event. They benefit so much from going to like a 60 or a 50, even a few moments at a 0, and going to a 60, and then when the time's needed at 100. And even if there was like a break, there's not really a break like that in boxing, not significant, but you know, maybe like a football game at halftime or something like this, or golfing in between moving from one hole to the next or something like this, or even a meeting or something like this. There might be like a break between a conference or something, and you have to give a talk. You can throttle back down to like this, control your state, go to this altered state of consciousness, recharge, come back out. So that's kind of tangential, but yeah, that's in the spirit of just the importance of being able to control your states, altering your states. And again, hypnosis and meditation, for me personally, they're just really synonymous. I'm a hypnotherapist, and what that means is that actually I can act as a guide for other people, that there are very specific signs in the physiology, in the breathing, other things that you can actually test for, to see that that someone else is, if they're listening to you and they're following the things you're suggesting they try, that as they go through these successive steps, they go through those altered states of consciousness to the point where they're in that sweet spot, and you can help them stay in that sweet spot. And then in that sweet spot, you can then provide for them the things they truly want for themselves. And that's really the art of hypnosis. It's influence for the positive. It's persuasion for the positive, right? It's using the powers for good. So, you know, I love Star Wars, so it's like, that's the Jedi side of this, right? Is that you're like using influence to help people, not make people, you never make people, to help people get the things they truly, truly want, but can't achieve for themselves. And part of my job, unfortunately, but it's in this society, is that hypnosis gets tied up into manipulation. That's like the dark art, right? That's like people try to make you do something that you don't want to do. They put pressure on you. They put constraints on time. They make you feel like if you don't do this thing that you're going to miss out, or you might get hurt, or other people around you like will be negative. So that is the dark art of manipulation. And not only do I not practice that, but actually hypnosis is the counter to that. You can learn when other people are trying to manipulate you, when other people are trying to apply these techniques to you that put you in this state of being so worried and like panicked that you can't think rationally, that you just go along with what other people tell you is right. That's manipulation. But being versed in those techniques, in the art of persuasion, you can know when people are trying to manipulate you. And so that's another really positive benefit. And the whole world is trying to manipulate you. I mean, not me. No, I'm just kidding. But, like advertising is manipulation, right? It's like you see all these people on the beach and they're like, oh, I'm having the best time of my life, and all those pretty people running around, and wow, woo, wow. And if you drink this beer, this could be you, So it makes you feel something. It makes you want something. It makes you feel like you're going to miss out. And then there's this bait and switch and says, this is the way. I know the truth. This is how you get it. Here, pay me money. You'll get it. Trust me. I'm the only person that knows. I figured it out. You can have it too. Just pay me $9.99.99 for easy payments. So, like marketing is that. Politics is nothing but manipulation, basically. It's just people standing on the stage telling lies the whole time, and it's this popularity contest, and they're just saying like, you like me, don't like this person, I'm going to give you all these empty promises and give me something in return. Give me your vote in return, give me money in return. But there's this whole other thing about authority and manipulation. I could talk for many hours about that as well, but I digress. So as I promised, though, part of this experience is going to be a hypnotic experience for anyone that wants to join along, wants to try it for themselves. And for this last segment here, I'll talk about the type of meditation that I most connect with, that really gave me a lot of value. Is this tradition of using when I say imagination, people think you need to see an image or like hallucinate, like you're in this place. But it's more like pretending. It's more like daydreaming. And when I speak to clients, I say like imagine, picture, pretend, conceptualize. All these words, some people have dominant senses, right? You could feel something. Like if I told you like you're outside and the wind blows on your face, could you imagine just that sensation? Or there's a bucket of cold water. Could you imagine just sticking your hand in a bucket of cold water? And it's using your senses, right? It could be smells. Could you imagine like bread baking in an oven? Could you imagine opening that oven and just that waft going into your nose? Or for you gluten-free people, gluten-free bread. I don't discriminate. And but it could also be it could be sights, right? And some people are more visual than others. And I do think that people can get to the point where you can more vividly actually like see in your mind's eye. It could be even tastes. It could be other things. So, but anyway, when you are in that kind of daydreaming part of your mind, that part of your mind is very connected to your subconscious. And your subconscious, like I said, is that operating system. And working with that operating system is how you change your programming. It's how you change your habits. It's how you change your beliefs about yourself. It's how you change the things that you really want to change in a meaningful way. It's planting those seeds in that fertilizer instead of just casting them out the window. Is using the imagination to tell yourself by yourself, like, this is what I want, and your imagination will feed back to you, like, this is what's holding you back, and then you can work with what's blocking you, and you can move past those things. And so it's a way of dialoguing with yourself and learning from yourself through your imagination. And again, a picture's worth 1,000 words, but a dream is worth 1,000,000. And I have these dreams that have guided my life. You know, I'll just quickly say that I was a vegetarian for like probably a decade, and I always had dreams about just like blah, disgust. If I was eating meat, like, whoa, God, what am I? Blah, blah, blah. And I hate hot dogs still to this day. I haven't eaten a hot dog like maybe 25 years or something, but just like, oh God, oh, friggin' hot dog, ugh, like disgust. I would wake up with like, ugh. But one day I had a dream about chicken, and every part of my system was like, yes, give me that. And I woke up like hungry, like I get it. My system is telling me this is important for you. So I still maintain a diet where I eat fish and chicken. I try to, I don't really eat it that sparingly, but I try to not have it be every meal every day is meats, but anyway. But that was just one example of many. And if you keep listening, as I keep doing this, I'll share many ways that like in meditation, I see, I conceptualize, I visualize information, I engage with that information, my subconscious or other things. Maybe if you believe like I do that there's more to our consciousness, there's more out there in this universe, and there's an interface, and that interface is your subconscious that you can engage in a meaningful way. And actually there is quite a history and tradition of it. And actually the Tibetan Buddhists, there's a lot of different schools of it, but the school of the Dalai Lama, I was fortunate enough to find a monk when I was living in New York that would teach those techniques, and it's way different than just sitting in silence, right? It's like there are these huge murals, and there's hundreds of Buddhas, and there's hundreds of demons, and you're supposed to sit there and just contemplate. You're supposed to absorb all this imagery and imagine like this light of compassion shining from you, and that you're this compassionate being, and this light is covering the whole world, and it's covering all the beings in the world. And you can go to the other side and imagine like if you stray from this path and there's tortures and horrors beyond belief, and like could you imagine like being part of that, but yeah, it's really based on using these elaborate imagery as a way of internalizing it. And also they have like people have seen the sand drawings that they do, and they do these incredibly intricate drawings of sand, and they do it from memory, and it's a meditation practice where these monks have to deeply integrate this information into their being so much that they can memorize it and repeat it faithfully. So anyway, so we're going to be more in that tradition of using the dreamer part of all of us and connecting with it. And I have a little guy at home. He's 2 years old, and we'll be walking down the street, and he's just like, look, a shark. And you could give him a toy, you could just give him a stick, and 1 minute later it's a sword, and then another minute later it's it's a fire hose, and then another minute later who knows what, it's a baseball bat or something. It's that part of us that can get absorbed in playfulness and creativity. That's the side of us that we can learn to reconnect with that. And people say inner child all the time, but that it's this playfulness of us, this imagination part of us, that a lot of us beat down and get beaten out of us by society, by school, yada yada. But it is actually one of the strongest resources us as human beings have. That's a whole other discussion between logic and lateral thinking. There's, I could talk for ages about this, but that they're equally important. And using them together is when you can really be at the top of your experience. You can make the most of your life is by marrying those two and knowing when to use them and using them to face the challenges of your life and seek answers, right? And when you see those answers, acting upon them. But give me a moment, I'm going to pull it up. So we're just going to do, if you choose, it's all about choice, is just a quick little hypnotic experience. And as I mentioned earlier, not to talk bad about it, but there's a lot of like kind of guided visualizations where people, there's this voice and they're talking like this, and I'm definitely gonna be talking kind of like that, not like that, something like that. That they'll be like, okay, go to the beach and the waves lap over your feet, and it might work for some people. I love the beach, sure, that will work for me. But other people, right? Maybe they hate the freaking sand. Maybe they have fair skin and they will burn within 1 minute of being out in that sunlight. Or worse, maybe they nearly drowned once. And so going to that place is in their mind is extremely challenging, or just not the right state of mind that you want to go into. So that's kind of this idea of this like one size fits all kind of imagery. And you can play around with it a little bit, right? But it can be very hit or miss. And working one on one with people, if I'm gonna use a very specific imagery, I make sure that they don't have a problem with it, right? So if you're like listening to recordings and you can play around with them, but sometimes it's like, okay, maybe this one's about the forest and this one's about the beach, and you like the forest and not the beach, and so okay, so like this one works for you. But for a lot of people too, they can just listen to these recordings, they don't really get them to that place. But the way that I've been taught and the way that I practice is it's open-ended. So we're gonna go to a place today, a place of your own, whatever that means for you. It could be a beautiful place in nature. It could be a place from your past that you always really enjoyed. It could be someone's home. It could be an apartment in Manhattan in some busy city. It could be made up, right? It could be on Mars. You could be like Mr. Manhattan, making a crystal temple staring out on the Martian sunrise, if you so choose. A handful of you guys will get that probably, but it can be real, it could be imagined. But what's important is that it's going to be this place, this sense that you are there by yourself. You're going through the scenery, just engaging with whatever sense the sense is, engaging with whatever comes to you, and by doing that, you can achieve this state of this kind of alpha theta sweet spot that we call trance. So give me just a moment. I'm just gonna prepare myself, get ready. And I'll speak also about this for hypnosis, that I can't make anyone do anything. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't. Sometimes I want to, but right now I don't want to. I'm just kidding. For my clients, it's not about me doing something to them. It's just simply that I'm offering a series of very simple instructions. And by following those instructions for themselves, by themselves, it helps bring them to a place that's comfortable, that serves them, that helps them. And it will be the same for you. So it's really this idea of just, it's not something that happens to you. It's something that I'm facilitating. So an illustrative example I give of this is like, let your hand, just let it go loose, right? If you choose to, you can keep those muscles with a lack of tension in them. And you can hold on to that as long as you choose. There it is. It stays that way. And if you choose to, if you want to, you can tense these muscles and you can hold that tension and you can hold it. And it's up to you when you choose to let it go. So it's just the same as that. It's the power of choice. I'm going to offer some suggestions. And if you want to, if you choose to, do them for yourselves. And by following these steps of suggestions, you'll be in a place that, don't take my word for it. Try it for yourself. It's a wonderful place to be. Okay. So again, don't operate any heavy machinery. Don't be driving. Don't be, I don't know, wielding a lightsaber or something like this. Just be safe. Be in a nice sturdy chair that has arms, or go on your couch or lay on the ground or something like this. But don't be sitting on a stool trying this stuff. So if that's all ready, just have you sit back, and we're gonna just practice taking a nice deep breath in. Hold it for just a moment. Breathe out slowly and under control. Let the exhale last longer than the inhale. And when it feels right for you, another nice long inhale. Savor it for just a moment. And a long, slow exhale. A normal, natural rhythm of breathing resumes. And for a third time, when it feels right, a nice long inhale. Hold it for a moment and let the exhale last longer than the inhale, maybe even twice as long as that inhale. And as you complete that, a normal, natural rhythm of breathing resumes. And now, if you choose, you can allow your eyes to close. And just imagine, picture, pretend, like when you're breathing in, let your eyes roll up as comfortably as possible. Like you're trying to look like through your forehead. That there's a window in your forehead or at the top of your head, and you're looking through that window. And as you exhale, those eyes roll back down to level. And we're going to do that one more time. Breathe in, the eyes roll up. Only to the level that's comfortable. Don't strain. And out, and let the eyes roll back down to level. And again, for the third time, breathing in, eyes rolling up. And exhaling, eyes roll back down to level. Allowing the eyes to remain shut, if you so choose. And just focusing on the sensations of your eyelids. They're some of the smallest muscles of your entire body. And when these muscles are comfortable, they get this state that they just are closed, comfortably shut. And if you choose, just like that fist, you can choose to just keep these muscles deeply relaxed, and you can hold on to that feeling of relaxation. And I'm going to count upwards from 1, and with each count, allowing those sensations to, your consciousness is going to be absorbed even more in those sensations in your eyelids. So at 1, perhaps, what if they were even twice as strong? Those sensations in your eyelids comfortably closed shut. And 2, the sensation growing even stronger, that they grow heavy. Even heavier. So that with every breath in, this calm, comforting ease rolling over the eyelids, and with every breath out is an invitation to let yourself go. And for 3, you'll know for yourself when you reach the level that they're so comfortably shut, they'll feel like they just won't work. As if it was a laptop that was just slammed shut, or a door that was bolted shut, or a phone that hit the lock button. That your eyelids, you'll know for yourself they've reached this level of comfort so much that they feel they just won't work. And now at 4, you can try to open them. You can test for yourself to satisfy that you know for yourself you've reached the place they just won't work. And in fact, the more you try to open them, that stronger that sensation that they just won't work grows. And now 5, you can let that sensation go. And as you move your awareness, it flows anywhere. So letting your awareness flow down through your cheeks and your jaw. Wherever your awareness goes, these sensations flow, becoming fully absorbed in them. And now through the scalp and the top of the head, down through the neck, a normal, natural rhythm of breathing. That's great. Whatever is right for you. There's no right or wrongs. And your subconscious mind knows how to take you deeper. And the deeper you go, the better it feels. And the better it feels, the deeper you go. So let's go. And the awareness through the top of the shoulders, down through the upper arms, the elbows, the forearms, and the hands. Allowing the awareness in the hands. They're some of the most sensitive parts of the entire body. It's easy to feel the sensations of the hands. And we can, with playfulness, experiment. What if you could control those sensations in a way that you never knew possible? And repeating in your own voice, inside of your head, my hands are growing heavier and heavier, heavier and heavier. Comfortably, this heaviness. But maybe the sensation maybe it's a tingling, maybe it's a floating. There's no right or wrongs. But just knowing that these sensations of your hands, this heavy sensation, is the sensation of your body going deeply into calm and comfort. A nurturing sensation. And perhaps, what would it be like if it was even twice as strong now? And wherever your awareness goes, the sensation flows. So flowing up through the arms, the hands and the arms, the shoulders, through the chest, and through the low back and the abdomen, and through the hips. Every breath in is bringing in new, fresh energy. Every breath out is it releasing, letting go. That's great. And if there are any outside sounds you hear on my end or your end, they don't distract you. In fact, they just help you focus more on the sound of my voice as it guides you through this experience. This progressive relaxation, scanning your body. And the awareness flowing down through the thighs and the lower legs and the feet. And having this sense of physical comfort. The doors of the imagination can open a little bit wider. Imagining a place of your own. Whatever it may be, allow it to come to life around you. And imagining if are there any sensations associated with this place? Are there any sights around you? What is around you? Are there any smells? Answer for yourself. And getting a sense of moving through this place. This movement, if you haven't found it already, there's a place of deep calm and comfort, a center place where you can lay yourself down or sit down and absorb all that's around you. And being fully absorbed in this place now, it's an invitation to know that your inner senses, your imagination, it can take you to this place within yourself in just a few moments, as you choose. A greater sense of control over your mind and body. Total absorption on the treasures within. That's great. And in a moment, not just yet, I'm going to count from 0 up to 5. That's going to be the sign, the symbol for your subconscious mind. It's time to exit this state and to come back to normal waking consciousness. And 0 first always means going deeper. Deep into yourself, sinking for just a moment. And 1 is a nice, comforting breath in and out. And 2 is becoming aware of yourself, where you place your body in time and space. And 3 is this number, this reminder, this subconscious experience of feeling a sense of control of your life, absorbing this information that you want, what is good and right and true for you. And 4 is preparing to come back to normal waking consciousness. And 5 is eyes open, wide awake and alert. Alright. And for anyone that's gone through this experience with me, I thank you for your time, and feel free to comment and share your experiences with this. If you have any questions, if you have any topics that interest you, let me know. I'm going to be streaming like this from 8 to 9. It was a little bit delayed today because I had some technical issues. This was my first time doing this. But I'm going to be doing it more regularly. So let me know what you think, and any engagement is welcomed, and tell me what you think. All right. Much love.